All right, everybody, welcome to the Huffman Basketball Podcast. We just finally settled on the name of this podcast, which I'm super excited to have Chris Young and Wills Lee, the infamous Wills Lee. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Thanks for joining us today. We're gonna go into your Chris Young played basketball at University of Michigan. He's got the best hands in the Midwest, they say. The quickest hands in the Midwest. You throw this guy a bad pass, he's going to catch it. He's going to score it if he's within 5 feet of the hoop. Chris played overseas for 12 years.
Yep. Same as you, 12 years.
Same as me, but I played 13. Chris played in Belgium. He played in Poland, played all over the place, played at University of Michigan. I'm just going to let you kind of tell us about your career before we get into the Michigan State rivalry thing that
Okay.
I know you know so much about. So
Yes, I do. So yeah, I went to Detroit Catholic Central. I graduated class of 98. I was pretty heavily recruited coming out of high school. My choices, people typically do like a top five, like, oh, what are my last five schools or whatever that you want to go to. I did a top three. My top three were Michigan State, and Notre Dame. And I ended up choosing, to go play for the Wolverines. And maybe in hindsight, basketball wise, it might not have been the best choice to join the Wolverine roster in the fall of 98 and go and play to 2002, because those were some interesting years in the history of Michigan basketball. But, I was there, I stuck it out, and I, not to toot my own horn, but I was one of the few bright spots in those 4 years, kind of tried to hold the program together as best I could, because
when you say bright spot, do you mean just big spot or bright spot?
Both, obviously being the biggest or one of the biggest guys on the team. But we went through a whole bunch of turmoil. We had two coaching changes. We had, guys coming in for a year or two, and some guys didn't even make it through a season. We had guys that didn't even make it to the first practice. My sophomore year, especially when I was playing with Jamal Crawford and Lavelle Blanchard, and very highly touted recruiting class. It was just every day we'd come to practice and there'd be news media there and stuff like that, because there was some issue going on. There was some problem going on. Somebody had, gotten pulled over for DUI, or just some off the court issue that, was distracting us. And then Jamal going ineligible, right before the Michigan State game at home, first week of January, just different problems that we had the entire time. So it was definitely a difficult time basketball wise, but, Michigan's still the greatest university in the world. I wouldn't change having that diploma that I can hang on the wall. Met my wife, which was a cool thing. Met her in college.
So, hey, Heather.
Yeah, she's around here somewhere.
Heather.
So it was an amazing experience. And then got done with that, and kind of tested the NBA waters, and realized that I really, at 22, 23 years old, really didn't know how to play basketball. And my game back then didn't really translate to what the NBA was looking for back in the spring, summer of 2002. This was the year that, they weren't taking college seniors. They were really taking underclassmen. They were taking European players and stuff like that. I was out a year before LeBron. I came out with, a bunch of guys from overseas that, weren't really the same style and type of player I was. I came up in the 90s and early 2000s. So I modeled my game after Shaq. That's who I was trying to be when I was out on the floor. As I progressed and played overseas, I really tried to be more of a Tim Duncan type, trying to be more, of a face up, trying to score, in different ways. But my game always kind of reverted back to being Shaq, being bigger and stronger than everybody, and just saying, what, I'm just going to go through people. I wasn't the most skilled. It took me until I was probably 27, 28, 29 years old, playing overseas for a long time, that I learned how to handle the ball a little bit, till I learned how to consistently make a 15-footer. And regardless of what Trevor says, be able to make threes on a consistent basis.
Oh, God, here we go.
Hey, I lit you up a couple weeks ago, man, so I don't want to hear anything about it.
Oh, yeah, no, when you got into your late 30s, yeah, you learned how to shoot.
Yeah, because you don't have a choice. The days of just the big bruising centers are gone. You look at Joel Embiid, you look at Jokic, you look at these guys. They're not trying to just be physically stronger than you. They're trying to come off the dribble. They're trying to do all this stuff. And then you get a guy like Mwemba, who's 7'4", who's got guard skills, where, 20, 25 years ago, it'd have been, okay, we got to put 50 to 60 pounds on this guy, and he's got to be a back to the basket, Shaq type player.
Yeah.
So, just watching how the game has evolved from where I started playing to what it is now has been a pretty dramatic change.
For sure.
I was gonna say, did when you were in college, when you were at U of M, I got a chance to play against Jamal Crawford. Who was the best player you ever played against in college, and why?
That's a tough question because I mean I came up with a bunch of guys that were NBA guys that played in the NBA for 15, 20 years that were going to the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. I mean probably the toughest all around matchup was we played against Duke every year, and playing against Battier was always just a pain in the ass. He was so smart. He never made mistakes. He always made the right play at the right time. You could never get in his head. And then he had you know Mike Dunleavy, he had Carlos Boozer, he had Jay Will, he had Chris Duhon. I mean, he had all these other guys that ended up playing in the NBA forever. That it just playing against those teams and playing against Shane in particular were just. I mean, he just gave us fits because there was nothing you could do, and it wasn't like now where you can't really touch guys, you can't body them up and stuff like that. Back then, I mean, he was looking for contact. He was trying to go into you and draw contact. Where guys in college now, they don't really do that. They're trying to avoid contact. And you get these guys that are, first team All-Americans where they go to the basket and you sneeze in their general direction, they're shooting free throws.
Gosh, I hate that.
Oh, I can't stand it because I mean, like I said, the way
That's how
that I
Wills
came
plays.
up,
You touch Wills on a drive, he's like, foul.
Oh, I'm pretty
It's
sure I've fouled
like-
him twice already just during this podcast.
Yeah,
So.
you
I
breathe
was
on
gonna
him.
say that's why I still got my broken finger. But
No, yeah, go ahead, Wills.
no, see why just going off of what you talked about a little bit, just kind of the change in the evolution of the game a little bit. If you're talking to like a 6'5" eighth grader, ninth grader going into high school, doesn't really know how to move with his body, how to be able to work in the post like that. What learning from your career and everything, what are some things that you would tell that guy? Because I mean, it's hard to be able to teach a 6'6" guy, 6'7" guy how to be able to work and how to operate at that young of age.
So the biggest thing that I learned from playing overseas is that everybody does every drill. So when I was coming up, junior high, high school, college, it was, we put the bigs on one end and the guards go on the other end, and the bigs do all the back to the basket moves and shoot your little hook shots and up and unders and stuff like that. And, you send Trevor and Wills down to the other end and they're coming off ball screens and shooting threes and doing all this kind of stuff. Well, in Europe, it's okay, everybody get a ball and go down to this basket. And so the bigs are coming off ball screens. The bigs are handling the ball and shooting 1-2 dribble pull-ups and learning how to finish that way. And also you do a little bit of that. And then it's okay, now the guards and the bigs are going to work on back to the basket post up stuff and how to get position. And it's just a matter of not kind of pigeonholing yourself into, oh, I'm, a 6'6", high school freshman, I have to be a back to the basket guy, or I have to be a face up guy. In today's basketball world, you have to know how to do all of it. Unless you're, Zach Edey, who's 7'4" and 290 pounds, where clearly he's not going to be out there shooting threes and stuff like that. He's more of the unicorn now than he is what was normal 20 years ago. So it's working on all the different ball skills. It's doing all the different ball handling drills, coming to the Huffman basketball camps and seeing the ball handling drills that you have all the campers do.
Thanks for that.
I'm looking at that like, I was a pro for 12 years. I don't know if I can do some of those ball handling drills at any type of consistent level, half as well as what the campers do. Because they work on this stuff, and we never worked on those kinds of things as a big. So it's getting used to doing all the different things that are all basketball related.
God, I wish we could go back in time, Chris, and take you as a young fourth, fifth, sixth grader and teach you how to be a guard. And teach you how to post up, like you're saying. I love the European approach to development. And if you look at the top players in the world right now, the top four players probably are European or overseas players.
Absolutely.
Jokic, Doncic, Giannis. I mean, the American style is becoming more about who can get up and down the court the fastest. It's AAU is a track meet for the most part.
Yep.
And the goal kind of Huffman basketball, for everybody that's never been to a Huffman basketball camp, we really want to create an environment where kids are learning to read the game and develop micro skills, but also understand the macro game, reading offensive concepts, whether you're posting up and sealing, whether you're finding the weak side on a drive, all the things in a DHO or a ball screen, staggers, hammer actions, all these things that happen at the highest levels. if we only run up and down and press the entire game when we're in fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade, just because we're more athletic, you're not going to ever learn those skills to, that they take in Europe and they just do repeatedly, 4 or 5 times a week, where they're seeing these concepts in fourth grade. They're seeing a ball screen. They're seeing, they're seeing DHOs. They're seeing reading the weak side, who's rotating. And I think you just get better at, whatever you focus on if you're intentional. But I love that you got, as you got older, you adapted your game, and it would be fun, if we could find a time machine and go back and say, like, Chris is going to be
future.
It's going to be a different, if you could do both, if you could post up and drive and shoot the three like Jokic, man, that would have been a fun style of game for you to learn.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, I was always, up until I got to be about 32, 33 years old, I had a 30+ inch vertical leap too. So I mean, being able to face up at the 3-point line and come down the lane and go and bang on someone, as opposed to just working in the post and dunking on someone. I mean, I'd have loved to be able to do stuff like that, to have that type of level to my game, but I never had it. I mean, I can probably remember once, maybe twice, that I took anything more than 2 dribbles and went to the basket, facing the basket. Yeah. And every time I tried to, I would kick the ball out of bounds or whatever, because that was not something I worked on any type of consistent level as I was a kid. And granted, for me, I didn't start playing basketball in 4th, 5th grade. I didn't start playing organized basketball until I was in 8th grade. So I didn't have that base of being a 4th grader or a 3rd grader or something like that, and going to camps and learning all these different nuances of the game. So by the time I got to high school and then to college, I already had it already stored in my brain, So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball, because I was, frankly, I was interested in doing other things. I was playing other sports. I wasn't big into playing basketball because I wasn't any good. I mean, I was always taller than everybody, but I wasn't that talented.
Yeah. Let's talk about college basketball real quick, because I feel like, Chris, you're kind of in the college basketball realm a lot more than I tend to be. I tend to be, I love watching FIBA games or NBA games. Yeah, I know. But I know did you guys all watch the FIBA World Cup this year? The Germans won the gold medal and they had Franz Wagner, 2 Michigan guys. They had Dennis Schroeder. And I'm just out there thinking to myself, like, this American team, it's not the highest tier talent in America. You got a lot of guys that are missing, but still, these guys are getting paid 20 to 30 times more than these German players.
Yep.
How is it possible that the Germans and the Lithuanians and the Serbians and, how is it possible that they beat even our 2nd or 3rd tier talent, in your guys' opinion?
Oh, it's just they play. They play, I don't want to say true basketball, but they play a different version of basketball than what the NBA guys are used to playing. I was watching an interview with Dwayne Wade the other day, and he was talking about, we could all get out there and deny the wing and deny back cuts and do all this kind of stuff, but JJ Riddick on his podcast consistently says, the college game is so different from the NBA because of all the spacing and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, there's spacing, but there's also back cuts. There's also looking for your teammates. You're also just not going to put a shooter in the corner and just let him stand there. There's moving, there's continuities, there's different actions where it's not just one guy monopolizing the ball. And you saw that with, especially in the FIBA World Championships with Germany against the USA, the ball never stuck in anybody's hand. The ball was constantly moving. They were constantly swinging the ball. And, after a while playing in the NBA, you see these guys that had this unbelievable talent when they were in college. It just kind of goes away because you don't have to get up there and deny a wing entry. You don't have to worry about, there's a backdoor cut. He's going to get a dunk, whatever. It's no big deal. Where the German team, if one of the American guys made a backdoor cut or something like that, they're sliding over. They're trying to take a charge. They're going to foul him hard. They're going to make him shoot a free throw. Like, it's just a different mentality on how they approach the game. And it's going to be real interesting to see if in the Olympics, if LeBron does actually put this team together that he's talking about, and they actually do a dream team, what they call it, dream team 2.0 or whatever the hell they're calling it, to kind of reestablish the world's dominance, to see, okay, if we get the top tier NBA guys and we get the top tier Europeans, how much difference is there really? Because right now my money's on the Europeans until I see that a group of guys like that can actually play together. It's one thing when you've got a leader like Kobe out there who's going to
will his way.
totally put the team under his wing and just be
Mhm.
like, this is how we're going to play. And I don't care if I'm playing against my brother and Paul Gasol, I'm still going to run through his chest.
That was a good
Like,
story.
yeah, where
It's a great movie.
I don't know if LeBron's got that. I don't know if these other guys have that type of mentality. Yeah, they want to show that they're the best and blah blah blah, but I don't know if they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think that the European teams benefit, like you said, from a different style of play. But that style of play is what the NBA should move to. You know, it's kind of
Absolutely.
what we love about college basketball. One, everybody plays hard.
Mm-hmm.
Two, if you don't play defense, you're probably not going to be on the court very long.
Yep.
Three, the intensity. You know, you have to earn everything. There's no star power. You know,
Nope.
you're not going to get 15 free throws, James Harden. You're not going to get,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like you said, if somebody blows on your wrist when you shoot, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the FIBA game, you have to earn your win through creating advantages as a team. And I think that's why the US teams struggle. You know, it turns into iso ball, or
Yeah.
it
Well,
turns
that's
into your one talented guy over dribbling and the ball movement stops. You got a
exactly.
guy in the corner
Exactly.
standing there, you know, for
Yeah.
10 seconds of possession. It's just not winning basketball. And I think that's why you love college basketball, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why you and I argue. I don't like college basketball from the sense that it's like watching some of the best athletes in the world race like a Ferrari down a court, and they're just like robots. You know, the coaches have them so programmed. Oh, I got to run this play. I
Mm-hmm.
got, you know, and as opposed to FIBA, they're just reading every action and concept. If there's an advantage, they take it.
Yep.
If they, you know, ISO is
Mhm.
essentially the last option. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if they have an advantage, they take the advantage. If they don't, they pass it. And
Yeah.
they create that
Mhm.
through ball movement and IQ, and they're less athletic. But man,
Mm-hmm.
I love watching that style. But yeah, you tell me about why you love college hoops so much.
I mean, you touched on all the points. It's the passion that that the kids play with on every single possession. It's sacrificing, and you know what, I got to get this possession, so I'm going to dive 3 rows into the crowd to go get this loose ball. It's playing through, you know, all the restrictions that these coaches put on them, and a lot of times the coaches put restriction on them because they're 18, 19, 20 years old, and they don't know what to do in certain situations. So they have to say, okay, we're coming down and we're running this set play. And you'll get an advantage after the third pass and after the fourth back door and stuff like that. Then you'll have an advantage, as opposed to, you know, the FIBA European style where, you know, the guys are typically 25 to 35 years old. They've all been playing professional basketball for 10 to 15 to 20 years, and they just see things and read things and know things. And that's the biggest difference between, you know, between college basketball, FIBA, and the NBA. It's, you know, for lack of a better term, it's basically like college is the equivalent of like junior high, where you have to really tell the kids, okay, you have to go stand here, you have to go here, with a couple rare exceptions, and those are the guys that are drafted in the top 5 in the NBA. You have to go stand here, you have to be under control, you have to do this, and you have to do this, because they just don't know. Where FIBA is more of high school, and then obviously the NBA is college, the NBA, because they can do this. But the issue I have with the NBA, like Trev touched on, is you get these guys that are getting paid 30, $40 million a season. They have to shoot the ball 20 to 25 times a game. They have to monopolize the ball because the teams have to justify their investment. So the coaches and the GMs and everybody are saying, dude, you got to get more attempts. You have to shoot the ball. You know, Victor Wembanyama doesn't want to shoot the ball 15 or 20 times a game. He wants to let the game kind of come to him because that's the system he grew up in, coming from France. But I guarantee you, Pop is telling him, and all the guys in the GM and the GM's office are saying, dude, you get the ball, you got to look at the basket, you have to shoot it.
Yeah, I mean,
he's the next coming. Like he has to be the next guy. So I don't like that system. I don't like that. I like the sharing of the ball. I like, you know, I like seeing a box score like the FIBA World Championships. The German team, they had like 6 guys in double figures. Yeah, they had one guy that had 22 or something like that, but everybody else had 18, 15, 12, and it's everybody contributes. You didn't have one guy with 40 and then everybody else has got 9.
So yeah, so a guy, so kind of going off of that, so a guy like Luka Doncic, right? They plays over in FIBA. He's got his game great. Everybody touches the ball. How, Trevor, for you being the NBA guy, how do you take that kind of style and you take it over to the Mavericks when you're playing with a guy like Kyrie Irving? Ball dominant, right? Always breaking down guys. But Luka has the ball in his hands, but he's one of the greatest passers ever. You look at the Denver Nuggets. I just look at their roster. They had, when they won their championship, they had 4 European players on it. And so you look at that, like a guy like Jokic and some other guys. How do you take that mentality from when you go to a team that you've grown up with all your life? You have this European FIBA mindset, moving, back cutting, right? DHOs, always going one more, taking a charge, right? How do you take that to an NBA team? Like we'll take Luka, for example. And how do you win a championship like that? How do you make your teammates understand that and be able to still play your European game in the NBA game?
Oh, I think that's a good question. I mean, I look at Dallas Mavericks and Kyrie and Luka, and I don't think they will win a championship. I don't think they have one. They're both ball dominant type players, and Luka loves to pass. But Luka also loves to have the ball in his hands, like you said. And I think the issue is like it's like looking at LeBron when he won his first championship with Miami. He was part of the system. He wasn't the definition of the system. He wasn't the ball stopper. He was the ball mover. And if you are stopping the ball and not creating an advantage, but you're just working for yourself because you're more talented and you do that over and over and over, like if you have to play one-on-one ISO ball over and over and over, eventually you're going to miss. You're going to get tired. You're going to be too easy to guard. They're going to double you. So if you're not creating advantages like the Denver Nuggets did, they just they stayed in the flow of their concepts, whether it was a back screen into a handoff into a ball screen, or if they tried to switch with Aaron Gordon, they had the right pieces to find advantages at every position. You have Bruce Bowen, who's kind of like this adaptable 3-4 player who can shoot the three, who can hit floaters. They just had the right pieces, but the ball never stopped moving.
They had a bunch of guys that also bought in, that also saw the success and all that. And I think for Dallas, especially with Kyrie, if he doesn't buy into the system, I mean, they're going to be they'll be a little bit better than average, but they're not going to be a good basketball team because he just wants to do his own thing and have the ball in his hands, like you said, just dominate the ball. It's a matter of getting people to buy into what it is you're trying to do. And that's why, the Lakers have had, some success, but then they struggle. And it's like, you look at their roster and it's like, man, this is like, a couple of guys that are going to the Hall of Fame. Like, how are they not having more success? Well, you got a couple of guys that haven't bought in. That just want to kind of do their own thing.
But I would say even more, they don't synergistically fit together. Like the Nuggets pieces fit really well. Yep. Kyrie and Luka don't. To me, it doesn't.
They're polar opposites. Like I don't know how anyone thought that was going to be a good idea.
So yeah, I mean, and I think kind of the system a little bit. The Nuggets actually kind of formed almost. It's an NBA system, but it's got its own European mix in it.
Absolutely.
Where they throw it down to Luka, but then they have different actions going off of that.
You mean Jokic?
Jokic, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, they throw it down to Jokic, and then from there, I mean, they had Contagious, the Joker.
Chris looks like the Joker. He's like the American version.
I wish I played like him.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think the other thing is Denver plays defense. Let's be honest. They play FIBA style defense in the playoffs, which is what most of these, when you're a team that focuses on pure star power to create shots. I mean, you have Devin Booker, you had KD, and they just got smashed. It doesn't at that point if you can't play defense and create advantages and as much as you can offensively and defensively, where I think that's what Denver figured out. Like they're a true team, and I hope that style of play other teams continue to try and emulate it, because that is a fun style of basketball to watch. It's more it's like a half and half mix of FIBA with also the best talented players in the world making these insane shots at times. We were like, how did the Joker just shoot a fadeaway three off 1 foot? Like that's insane. Some of these shots they can make, which is why I love the NBA. But I regress. I know this is about college basketball for you, Chris. So who's better this year, Michigan or Michigan State? Let's just get right to it.
Wow,
there's a hell of a segue right there.
My God,
let's not mince our words here. Let's be honest.
So if we're talking football, Michigan football is definitely much better than Michigan.
We're not
State
talking about football.
Well, it's the Michigan State game is this weekend, so we're talking about that for a minute. But the preseason rankings came out and all that, and Michigan State's ranked in the top 5. They're the preseason top 5. They've got a top 5 recruiting class coming in and all that. They have Izzo did not hit the portal at all. He's got no transfers coming in this year. It's either his guys or it's recruits, which is one of the few teams in all of America that didn't, he didn't bring in anybody from the transfer portal because Izzo is not a fan of the transfer portal. So he's just like, you know what? I'm not doing it. So, and Michigan's picked to finish 10th in the Big Ten out of 14 because no one knows what to expect from Michigan. Losing Hunter Dickinson to Kansas, who knows what the heck they're going to be. We've got a couple of transfers that came in,
you
and
lost the Jet Howard. You guys lost
Jet
some
Howard.
talent.
Jet was good, but Kobe's going to be the bigger loss. But I think Jet was Michigan actually played better when he was out, when he was hurt last year, because he was the type of guy where he had that NBA mentality where the ball would stick in his hands, and with his dad being the coach, he could get away with a lot more than other guys could. So I honestly don't know what Michigan basketball is going to do. I mean, they could potentially be an Elite Eight team, or they could finish 10th in the Big Ten. Like, I don't have any idea. They've got too many unknowns with too many new pieces to see how it's all going to fit together. But it's not going to be till middle to the end of January till we really know what type of team it's going to be.
Correct.
Because they're going to take 15 or 20 games to play together to figure out what their style is going to be and who's going to be the guy on the team and all that, because we just don't know.
This is the thing, though. This is the thing about Coach Howard, and I'm not throwing any flame at this guy, but
here we go.
Tom Izzo's teams are going to be better by the time March rolls around.
Yep.
I did not see the improvement overall, that the type of improvement you see with the Tom Izzo team versus a Juwan Howard team. I'm sorry. Is that?
Yeah. The overall development and the overall just, the skill development, and then the overall just basketball IQ development that happens with Michigan State during the course of the season for the last 25 years since Izzo's been the head coach, 30 years, has been staggering. That December they're going to play some tough games, they're going to drop a couple, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to win some games in the Big Ten. But you don't want to play Michigan State coming into the second or third week of February. You definitely don't want to play them in March. I mean, that they just constantly get better. He gradually just ramps it up and figures it all out, where, Juwan has had success because he's had experienced guys and experienced teams and stuff like that, but you don't see that skill development during the course of the year and that basketball IQ development during the course of the year. You see the same mistakes that were being made the first week of December being made the last week of February. And it's like, how is this possible?
Correct.
I was listening to an interview with one of Michigan's assistant coaches, Phil Martelli, and he was saying that last year they lost 13 games by 6 points or less.
Just finishing.
Just finish a game. Don't kick the ball out of bounds. Don't turn the ball over in crucial possessions to give easy layups to lose games. And these are games on the road. These are games at home. These are, they win half of those games, they're competing for a Big Ten.
Well,
and it's the thing with this year. And it's those teams, they don't make those mistakes. Very, very, very rarely have you seen an Izzo team in the last 30 years, turn the ball over with, 3 seconds left to go, or give up an easy shot to win the game. Last year when Purdue was at Michigan State and Purdue was allowed to dribble the ball at the floor and dump the ball on Edey, and Edey goes up and scores that little easy jump hook to win the game. It's like, shit, I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen a Michigan State team just absolutely disintegrate in the last 10 seconds of a game like they did. And that's because, Izzo didn't have the most talented group, but you never saw that again. That was a one and done situation with them. They're always getting better. They're always progressing. And that's my biggest knock on Coach Howard is there hasn't always been that development. He's very good developing guys over the summer. You see guys come back, from the end of one season to the start of the next season, and they've all developed different skills. They're all bigger, stronger, faster, but they don't necessarily develop that in the next 6 months as opposed to the previous.
What do you think the difference is between, I mean, growing up, I'm the biggest Michigan fan as you, but watching the Beeline era versus the Juwan Howard era, I feel like John Beeline, his offense was always more moving. They were always taking charges. The charisma about the team was every possession matters. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter about who looks good or your draft projections. I mean, because you look at like Glenn Robinson, Nick Stauskas, Duncan Robinson. Whoever thought Duncan Robinson would be making $90 million for the Miami Heat?
Yeah.
I mean, do you see that difference between those two?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it starts with the head coach. Juwan came from the NBA. He was an NBA All-Star. He made, hundreds of millions of dollars during his NBA career. So it's a different type of mentality where Beeline has always been a college coach for 40 years or whatever. And when he would go out and recruit guys, yeah, he'd throw his nose in the ring and try and get a 4-star or 5-star kid. And with a couple rare exceptions, all the guys that he brought in were 3 and 4-star guys, and they were all guys that wanted to be at Michigan, and he was looking for certain pieces in their game and certain pieces in their mentality where he could tell them to run through a wall, and those guys were going to run through a wall. And he knew, and one of the reasons why he left Michigan is that if you stay at Michigan and you go through 3 years and possibly 4 years of working every day in practice and working with him and doing what he says and stuff like that, you got a pretty good chance of either going to the NBA or going and playing overseas, because you will get to be a better player. It's all about skill development. Talking with, Spike and a bunch of the guys that played for him.
Wait, who's Spike?
Spike Albrecht.
Spike Albrecht.
Yeah. My bad. I didn't.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, everybody knows Spike.
Michigan play. I know Mac, baby.
Spike's the guy that in the national championship he went for 17 as a freshman in the first half.
I guess
after almost never playing. But anyway, like, talking with him, one of the things that Beeline is notorious for in his practices, whether he was at Michigan or at West Virginia or wherever he's been, the first like 15 or 20 minutes is basically like the first 15 or 20 minutes of a Huffman basketball camp.
Oh, skill.
It's skill development. It's okay. Fake a pass, make a pass. It's different passes. It's different pivots to make passes. It's reading cuts. It's doing all the basic things where a lot of other schools are, okay, let's go 5-on-5. Let's do defensive transition drills. Let's do, other things, where this is, down to the absolute basic nuances. And then they do that every single day in and day out for years and years. And then you see these guys get into different situations in the game. And even now in the NBA, Glenn Robinson and, Stauskas and these guys, they just make these things instinctually because it's been drilled into them for so long, where, Jawan doesn't necessarily do that. He's got a different philosophy, and he wants to teach these guys to be prototypical NBA players and not just total skill development.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I remember watching Michigan practices when Beeline was there, and I got to sit in a practice and a meeting, and it's like a PhD in basketball what this guy teaches. It's constant analysis of analytics and on a micro level and a macro level. How are you shooting? What were your makes today, Jordan Poole? As he's shooting on the Noah machine going around. Then they're doing breakdowns on retreat dribbles and reverse pivots, what Beeline would call like a waffle or a donut pivot. Like, he's got all these. He's got his own vernacular for basketball, which I thought was interesting.
Yep.
But then,
and that's why when he left to go to the NBA, I was like, oh my God, like, what is he thinking? I understand he wants to try and, test the NBA waters and, be able to say he coached at every level and all that, but that doesn't translate.
Yeah, that ego.
How are you going to tell these, $100 million, $200 million players to, we're going to spend 50, we're going to spend 15 minutes and teach you how to pivot. And we're going to have a 3-hour practice followed by a 2-hour film session. Like, that
Will's
doesn't,
ain't gonna. Yeah, no, you can't get a guy. You can't be the, like the kind of like the drill. Not that he was like a drill sergeant, like yelling at you, but he was a drill sergeant in terms of old school, like the basic reps, the pivoting, the boring fundamentals that are just monotonous. I watched. Who is the kid that transferred in from Kentucky when they got to the Final Four? He was an athletic guy.
Lanky kid. What was his name? I just blanked on it.
Anyway, as you think about it, I'm watching practice, and Duncan, Duncan Robinson's in practice, and they, this is the beginning of the season, preseason. They're just doing a defensive shell drill. They rotate, take a charge, or if there's nobody there, that they can go score it. And this
Charles Matthews,
that's it. He wasn't in help side, like he wasn't on the center line help line when the guy rotated. He didn't meet him outside the lane, and in fact, he just completely blew the coverage, right? And he was the bottom guy on the weak side ball screen coverage. So anyway, the guy rejects the screen. That kid gets a layup. Beeline just points to the top of Chrysler Arena, doesn't say a word, and I'm like, what is he? What's this? And all of a sudden, Charles Matthews just puts his head down, shakes his head, and knows he messed up, runs to the top of the Coliseum, of Chrysler, runs back down. The next rep, he's back in the practice, right in the next set. Couple of plays later, same thing happens. You would think Beeline's going to lose his mind, right? Like, what are you doing? He points to the top of the arena. Charles Matthews shakes his head. My bad, coach. My fault. Like there was just this understanding, like you know what you have to do fundamentally, and if you're not there, just go touch the top of the Chrysler Arena, and then or you're not going to play. Like
or you know that what come the game on Saturday, Sunday, whatever, you're going to be sitting next to coach.
Yeah,
and that was it. Like he was not a yeller and screamer. Yes, he was intense and all that, but that's not his personality. Is to get in someone's face and yell and scream. He just, like you said, he would just do that. Just, all right, man. This, you know what you're supposed to do. Like, just get it done. You know, you've had this drilled into you for how many months and how many years. Like, you just know.
Yeah.
Now on the flip side of it, I mean, some of the Beeline things that I was not a fan of was, you know, the over under on Michigan basketball winning the game is if they made more than 12 3-pointers a game. In order to make 12 to 14 3-pointers a game, you got to shoot 28 to 30 3-pointers a game. And I was not a fan of that at all. You know, because I just thought there was way too many times where they're, you know, it's, you know, a different type of game situation. You know, they're coming up the court, you know, just got 2 stops in a row, trying to make a comeback or whatever. And time to get a 3 up. And I didn't necessarily like that, but you know, that's just, you know, coaching philosophies as opposed to the actual coaching of kids.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the FIBA style is a little different. They still post and steal and create opportunities and advantages on the inside, you know, based on their ability to shoot, pass, you know, drive and kick. And if a big man rolls in FIBA and they help side rotates to cut, you know, to take that away, the big man is good enough to kick the ball out for a, you know, feet set 3. That's a much better shot to me, you know, than kind of what college does, you know, where we're going to come off, we're going to shoot a tough 3 or a quick 3 with when, you know, where we're kind of off the dribble or off the move, as opposed to just taking, you know, what the defense gives you in terms of like creating an advantage for your big. He's rolling, you hit him, they rotate. Now the big in FIBA or in the NBA, maybe not the NBA as much, but they're really, really good at finding the next advantage. You know, the flow doesn't stop. And I think that's probably what you're talking about. Like Beeline he didn't really play a FIBA style, but they were so well coached and they read, you know, the big guys could shoot. They had spacing was great. They executed their sets. They, you know, they ran really good stuff, even if it wasn't creating an advantage, like you're saying.
They did an interview once way back in the day with Trey Burke, and they asked Trey Burke saying, "How well do you know your offense?" He said, "I could dribble the ball up the court and shut my eyes and be able to point and say where every person's going to be." And it's just those little nuances.
And and Beeline is also notorious for having a playbook that is, you know, 30 pages long.
Exactly.
It's, I mean, his offensive sets and defensive sets, I mean, it was staggering how many different plays they had. And you could, like you said, you could talk to any Beeline player and they didn't just know their position. They knew everybody's position.
Exactly.
You know, because all of a sudden you run down the court and one of your guys has a brain fart and it's like, oh no, dude, you're supposed to be over here and do this. Oh yeah, shit. And then they go. You know, they just do. And that's how they were. And that's why, you know, I got to give Beeline a lot of credit because he took guys that, you know, decent enough players coming out of high school and he made them NBA All-Stars.
What was your favorite arena to ever play in? You know, I never got to play. I mean, I got to play in some cool arenas in college, but I know you got some better options than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I like playing at home because it was easy and all that. It was, you know, a favorable crowd for the most part and all that playing at Chrysler, but I always like going on the road. I love playing at Cameron Indoor. I played at Cameron Indoor twice. You know, I love the energy from the crowd. I played at, you know, at Indiana where, you know, you look up and if you're standing at center court, you look up at those upper bleachers and they literally look like they're going to fall down on top of you because it's so steep going up to the top and it's so loud in there. I remember yelling in my point guard, Robbie Reed's ear, trying to tell him something and he couldn't hear me because it was so loud in there. It was just deafening. But then going up to Minnesota and playing up in Minnesota on a, you know, Tuesday or Wednesday night up in the barn where it's got that metal roof and the raised floor. And, you know, back once upon a time, one of the rims was set at about 9'9" or so. And the other rim was about 10'2". So, you know, the first half you're going up and you're dunking everything. It's like, man, I can get my whole elbow in the damn rim. And the second half you're looking up like, son of a bitch, that thing's high as hell. Like, that's just how it was. And you go diving for a loose ball and okay, you're not going to the first row. You're falling 4 feet and then you're hitting the first row. So there's, you know, there's all these cool little things. You know, I really like playing at the Breslin because all the fans there hated me. You know, they'd have different chants for me and stuff like that. And I loved it. And I fed off of that. And I always played better when I had the crowd against me. You know, I I kind of embraced that villain type role because of the way that I played. I always played real physical. I always was knocking guys around and stuff like that. And then I kind of, give a little something to the crowd, and nine
Love
times
it.
out of 10, we were getting our teeth kicked in, but that's just kind of what I enjoyed doing.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor, you think it's time for rapid fire questions yet?
Oh shoot, it's rapid fire, man. Go ahead, Wills. You
Wait, let
got
me get my
some?
hands ready. All right.
Nope, you always started off. I gotta think about it.
All right, best dunk you've ever had and on who?
Oh, best dunk. Are we talking college? Are we talking professional? Or are we just talking in general?
In general.
Well, I dunked on you a couple weeks ago playing at the Hannah Center,
That
which
is
was kind
not
of
true.
cool.
That is erroneous. On
That
all
is
accounts.
absolutely 100% true.
Erroneous.
He
But no, I mean,
charged
I
through
had
me.
I had a couple dunks when I was overseas. I shot 65% for my career, because I dunked everything around the rim. But every once in a while I'd get kind of a running start at something, putting guys in the basket, getting guys in the post and kind of shacking them and just kind of taking 2 dribbles and just rising up and dunking on people. So I did so I did that to a guy. I was playing in Belgium. He was playing for a city called Antwerp. I was playing in Aalst, and this guy Salah Madri, who's a big time shot blocker, stuff like that, like 7-foot long arms, ended up going to the NBA a couple weeks after I did this to him. I literally had him in the block, took 2 dribbles to the middle, spun and went right up chest to chest with him, looking him right in the face and put it right on his head. Got an and one. That was his 5th foul of the game. Fouled him out of the game and stuff like that. So that was
the cup.
That was one of my
cup
top
championship, right? That was when you won the Belgian Cup.
That's when I won the cup championship.
That was a big game. For the people that don't understand European basketball in a domestic league in like Belgium or France or Germany, you have the domestic championship, which you play for it, and then you have a playoffs just like the NBA, but you also have a cup championship which is like an NCAA tournament inside the league play that's happening throughout the season for every team in Belgium, whether you're a first division, a fourth division, a fifth division. So Albion College in the cup championship could play against Michigan State if they made their way through. Yeah, and it's super fun. I mean, we were playing Division 2, Division 3 teams. You have these crazy crowds who are rooting for their teams, and they're just taking the worst shots and they're going in. And in fact, like if Albion played Michigan State,
we
played this cup style tournament in the States, Albion would get 10 points per level they're below. So if they're D3, they would have a 30-point lead before the game even starts.
They also did the foreigner thing too. So every foreigner that the higher team had on their team, they were worth 5 points. So I mean, we would go into some games and it was like, as the first jump ball was going up to start the game, we're looking at the scoreboard like, holy shit, we're down 40-0. And we still come back and wax them and all that because we were so, the level was so much different, but it was still, it's such an amazing thing, the whole cup series that they have in all these European countries.
Yeah, so, Trevor, we did play state my junior year when we lost by 45. So see why you were close.
Yep. And so, okay, so that was my best dunk, one of my best dunks professionally. In college, one of the dunks that I remember the best and one of my kind of shining moments was we were playing against Duke my senior year at Chrysler. And this is, Jay Will, Carlos Boozer, Shane Bedia was gone, Dunleavy, and all these guys were there. And I caught a kind of a lob pass over the top in the post, and I caught it, spun, went chest to chest with Boozer, and Dunleavy came over from the side, and I dunked on both of them.
Did you let them know?
I fucking let them know. Yeah, I ended up with 25. Jay Will had 30 or 33, and we lost by 30. So I definitely let them know about my dunk, and I'm sure it's nothing they remember.
Can we find that dunk on video?
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
I want to find. Wills, we got to try to find that.
No, we'll put it as a caption for this podcast or the intro.
It's out there somewhere, man. I know it is. So, but that's the two of the ones that really stand out for me.
All right.
What is your? You got one, Wills?
Oh yeah.
You're ready.
What's your favorite Trevor Huffman memory? CY.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so we actually talked about this
for the kids.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, gotta keep it, PG-13. Yeah. So no, one of my favorite memories of Trevor is, we've known each other since we were 18. We played, so there was, there's the McDonald's All-American team coming out of high school. Trevor and I were definitely not good enough to make the McDonald's All-American team. We made the Wendy's team. Yeah. So we played in the tournament together. We roomed together for a week. They put us together in a room. So we roomed together, played together in the Wendy's Classic. And then the following season, we played against each other for a couple years in college. Then we went overseas and we played against each other for a couple years. And then we finally, leading up to the 2010 season in Belgium, we finally had the opportunity to play together, where we hadn't played together since 98 and blah, blah, blah. So I'm making all these moves, talking through my agent and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I want to go to this city. I want to go play in Ulst because I want to play with Trev. Like, I think me and Trev together now, we were, 29, 30 years old, something like that. Like, oh, we're going to do big things in this league and blah, blah, blah. Sign the contract. Trev, man, what's up? I call him up like, dude, I'm coming to Ulst and blah, blah, blah. He's like, damn, CY, I just signed with our biggest rival. And
Oh my God.
he left to go to play for another team. So that's one of my favorite memories, that I really kind of rearranged my entire career to go and play with Trev. And, he abandoned me. But then we still had great battles. He went to go play he went to go play for Ostan, and we had some great battles and stuff like that, playing against, the rivals and stuff like that. But, we've got, and this is all on the court stuff. We've got so many, memories together playing against each other that, it's been a fun ride. And then every once in a while, we still get together and play pickup or play in some, goofy, old man basketball tournament up in Bel Air and stuff like that. So
you remember when Caden threw his neck out when we played 3-on-3? Shout out Caden and Kenny Goins.
Yep.
He's still crooked.
So, hey, how's everybody doing?
Everything good? Yeah.
It's interesting when you got to go through life as a little guard like me and take the brunt of the physicality of a big man. It's just better not to get even screened, If there's any lesson for you guards out there, is just don't get screened. I don't know how you do that, but
you don't, because if I'm doing my job right, that doesn't happen.
I know, that's exactly right.
Oh, that is great.
All right, my last rapid fire. What was your pregame ritual before games?
So we would always have, morning of the game, early afternoon of the game, we'd always have a shoot around, come home, get a little something to eat, take about a 30 to 35-minute nap, and that'd be about it. A lot of guys like to lay it down and sleep for a couple, 3 hours or something like that. I always felt too groggy. So I would do that. I'd get up and I had barbecue chicken. I pulled out my barbecue grill and I had barbecue chicken and pasta that I made before every game for like 6 years or something like that. I mean, a very, very long time. Then I'd go upstairs, catch a shower, and I'd get in the car and be driving to the gym. And I always listened to the same music on the way to the gym. And I always had kind of like a routine where I had to pull in the parking lot, listen to the same song at the same moment and stuff like that. So I was very superstitious when it came to, following my routine and following my ritual. When I was playing in Ulst, where I played the last 4 years of my career, I always had to walk in through the same door. I always had to give the same lady a hug at the door and, walk to the locker room the same way and stuff like that. So I was very superstitious. I always got there a half hour before we were supposed to get there because I wanted the locker room to myself. I wanted to go out and do my own, warm-up routine, which was just, shooting free throws and getting my mind right and just visualizing the entire game. So I always had a very set schedule of what I was doing.
Wills, you got one more? Is that it? I think Wills is out. Look at him; he's stunned. He didn't even think it was going to come back to him. Oh, I'll go. Well,
no, I'm thinking right now. CY, what does the Michigan versus MSU rivalry mean to you, and how has it changed?
I mean, it's always been, obviously Michigan football and Ohio State. That's always a big rivalry.
Yep.
For Michigan and Ohio State in basketball, yeah, it's important because it's a Big Ten game, but there was nothing. It was always Michigan State. And as a basketball player, it was always we got to beat State. We got to beat State. Not coming up, 98 to 02. Man, those were the Flintstone years up at State. They won a national championship. They were winning Big Tens and stuff like that. So we didn't stand much of a chance. So, it's always been important to me. It's always been something I care about, but it's not something I was ever on the positive side of as a player. Now, watching the success that, Coach Amaker had after I left, and then Beeline and then Juwan, it's been amazing to watch. But one thing, I live in East Lansing now, so my mindset has kind of changed a little bit. Yeah, I always want Michigan to beat Michigan State. It's always a thing. Michigan football's always got to beat little brother. The basketball team's always got to beat the basketball team. But I've kind of softened my view on Michigan State athletics because I live here. And it's like, okay, if Michigan State's playing Iowa, I'm not necessarily going to cheer against Michigan State, but I'm not going to cheer for Iowa. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I just want to watch a good game, and I don't really care, if it's soccer or lacrosse or whatever the hell the sport is. But when it comes to football and basketball, man, you got to beat little brother. That's all that matters. The game coming up Saturday night. I mean, Michigan, I want them to win by 100 if they can. If you got a chance to go for 2 at the end of the game,
what if it's Michigan State
and you're up 65, you got to go for 2.
This doesn't make any sense to me, though. If Michigan State, and you're a big Michigan fan, or vice versa, and Michigan State is playing Ohio State, who are you rooting for?
Depends on what sport and depends on what the situation
is. Michigan State football.
Yep.
Versus Ohio State football.
So then I want Ohio State to win.
Okay.
And my reasoning is because I want Ohio State to be undefeated going into the last football game of Michigan season, so Michigan can ruin their season.
Okay, I see.
I wanted Ohio State to win that football game a couple weeks ago at Notre Dame, so that way they were still perfect going into the Michigan game.
I got you.
Where I don't like an Ohio State Notre Dame game. Like, I don't know who the hell to cheer for because I want both of them to lose. So it's a very interesting. Trust me, you don't want to delve too deep into here as far as how all this kind of stuff goes, man. So, but then if it comes down to Ohio State and Michigan State basketball, I want whichever team to win or to lose that helps out Michigan the most, helps them out in the rankings and stuff like that. So it's a weird dynamic. I've talked to Heather about it hundreds of times. She's like, "You make absolutely no sense." I said, "I know, but in my own brain, it makes perfect freaking sense."
Well, Will's just yawned, so that means this podcast is getting boring.
We
got. Hey, CY, you got to ask Trevor one question.
Okay.
One rapid fire question.
Rapid fire question. So, I guess it's got to be the obvious question. Why, right before we started the podcast, why'd you have to put on your lucky beanie? You're living in North Carolina. It's 85 degrees, man. What's up with the lucky beanie? Like, I
just love a good beanie. I'm going to be honest. This beanie I took from my brother D2. He doesn't know I have it, and I just love this thing. It got cold last night. It got down to about 60 at night, and and my toesies got cold. So I got the beanie out. I got my winter clothes out. Yeah,
so shouldn't you have put on a pair of socks instead of a hat? I mean,
no, there's nothing better than just being barefoot connected to the ground. See why that's where all the magic happens.
I get it, man. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt right now, and it's 50 degrees outside, and I don't have socks or shoes on. So
he's a new North Carolina man. Big moves for Huff down there.
Yep. Just to let everybody know, Natalia and I, my girlfriend, bought a house. We're buying closing this week. Fingers crossed. So we got big moves, but I'm looking forward to coming back in December. We got a bunch of stuff happening on Huffman basketball. We got camps. We got AAU program now from 4th to 7th grade, and I'll be leaving a note for all our business sponsors that have supported us this year. So if you are interested in getting involved with Huffman basketball and helping develop Northern Michigan basketball, shoot me an email, thuffman24@gmail.com. Chris, why don't you plug anything that you have going on? If you need a real estate appraised, Chris Young is your guy. If you need a hot tub moved, Chris Young is your guy.
I got a couple things I can plug. Like Trevor said, I'm a certified residential real estate appraiser. So if you're in the the greater Lansing area and you need an appraisal done, I can get that knocked out for you.
You have a card, a number, and an email?
My email is very simple for work. It's Wolverine Appraisals with an S at gmail.com. Is shoot me an email or something like that. I can give you a personal real estate appraisal. I'm very good at moving hot tubs and refrigerators and stuff like that because I don't lift weights anymore, but I'm still strong as an ox. And I do a weekly podcast getting into the Michigan basketball season with a buddy of mine, Tom Crawford, talking everything Michigan basketball and talking Big Ten. It's Down on the Blocks with Chris Young and Tom Crawford. You can get that on all the different streaming services and all that. So come check us out and see what you think.
Down on the Blocks. I like that name.
That's
way better than our name.
That was a really good referral that he just gave.
For who? Down on the Blocks.
For his podcast.
I feel like he's done this way more than us.
I feel like I've been doing podcasts and radio and stuff like that for couple 8-9 years now. So I got a gist on how to do this stuff. Even though I've been told by people that my podcast, I need to just turn the camera off and just I got a face perfect for radio. So and that was my wife telling me all that stuff. So
That is not nice, Heather.
I know, but that's
Oh,
Heather.
come on, Heather. Come on.
Oh man,
No,
next
I'm only
time.
kidding. I like to give her a hard time, but she's very supportive and me being able to do all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, we all love Heather. Well, that's great. Wills, did you catch any fish this weekend?
I did not catch any fish. I was in the stand this weekend down in Albion.
Oh, you're in
So
the stand. It's a
there you
different
go.
season.
yep, it's transition now. The pre-rut's happening, so it's time to balance my hunting and basketball life.
Are you going
There
to
you go.
send us some venison?
Of course, I will send him
You
some
ain't a
venison.
little lie. Look at him. He's lying right now.
I just
No, he's got to
I
get
w-
some venison first before he can send some
That's
venison.
true.
I won't send any to you, Huff, because Natalia won't let you eat it.
That's not true.
So
I
that
can. That is not true. I'll eat
That
yeah, see,
absolutely
look at that
100% is
now.
true. Yes, that is
That is
absolutely true.
Yes.
absolutely true.
Yes, it is absolutely true. Come on now.
All right.
See why you and I will have a cookout and Trevor can be over
Let's
Zoom.
do it. We'll zoom him in and he could just stare at everything we're eating.
Yeah,
Well,
just
listen
no
up.
beanies.
Listen up. This podcast, guys, if you guys want to find all the information, it's going to be on hbelitetraining.com. It'll be on our blog page. So come check it out. We'll also post it on our social channels, YouTube. Just type in Huffman basketball. You should be able to find. Wills is doing a lot of training in Northern Michigan. So reach out if you want to get some extra skills training and look at our upcoming camps for the fall and winter. We have a bunch coming up. So we look forward to getting in the court and sweating and working. And CY, when will we see you at a next Huffman basketball camp?
Hey, I got to get you and Wills to send me the schedule, and I'll see what I can make happen, man.
Chris-
I'm always available to do camps. I love working those camps.
Yeah.
Those are a riot. I love
You and
the kids, all
Jeremy
that, so.
Nordberg. We'll get you and Nordberg up there again, and
There we
Nordberg
go.
will just shoot threes while we do all the coaching.
He'll just shoot
So
threes and talk a whole bunch of junk to 11-year-olds. It'll be fun. So
All right, man.
That's
Well,
great.
really appreciate you coming on the pod, and well, we look forward to more conversations in the future about Michigan State, and also Wills's hairstyle. So it's we appreciate. Thanks, Wills, for
And
hopping on.
And the
Yeah.
purple beanies, of
Yeah,
course.
the
Thanks for
purple
having me.
beanies. We're electric, guys. I
well,
gotta
see,
say, this
I
is
feel
an
left out though,
electric
man. I don't have a
podcast.
beanie on. I just
Your
got my
hair is
haircut,
lit-
so
yeah, it
I
looks
don't know,
good.
man. I gotta
You're looking
step my
really,
game up.
really, really well manicured hair. CY,
Yeah,
like I
well,
don't think
it's
Where did Heather do that, or did you
no,
go to?
that's a great clip special right there, my friend. This is $19 worth of a haircut right here. Yes, sir.
Great
Yep.
clips. Does that great clips where they like you watch sports and then
No,
they give you a beer?
That's sports clips.
Oh,
That's where I go.
That,
That's
that's
the
we can
bougie
tell.
place.
We can absolutely tell that's where you go.
yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Why do you go to sports clips? It's like $80. Aren't you like
I understand
right out of
it, but I
college?
can watch. I can watch my sports and it's just fun. The problem with great clips, it's like my hair takes a little more time, so they try to get it cut under 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
So it's like, so if they talk, if you know me, once I start talking, and so it's at least 15 minutes just of a conversation. I will never forget when I went over to D2's house one of the first times, and Trevor's sitting down there, and D2 said, "You want a haircut?" Pulls up a chair and buzzes Huff's hair off.
Well, I think that's the other reason why
BYB.
he wears the beanie is because there's not a whole lot of real estate left up there. So
There's not.
Yeah,
There's some
his haircut
some
takes
dry land.
3 or
There's
4
some
minutes.
dry, arid land up top. I don't know who's going to
What's the
water
real
it.
estate appraisal?
It's not good.
It's not. We're not looking
look like
optimistic in that market.
Ronald McDonald here pretty soon. I'm just gonna let my hair grow out down the sides and then
Just on the sides and just kind of flip it over.
Yeah,
There
my
you go.
grandpa had that. He was pretty. He was pretty cool, dude. We do little things differently in the Huffman family. We got a lot of. We cut our own hair. We wear beanies in the summertime. Who knows?
You guys cheat in euchre?
We and
Very
Chris
No,
does.
no, I never cheated.
Chris definitely cheated.
I never cheated.
All right. Well, thanks guys for listening. We'll end on that note now that we know the truth is out. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.